Hi and welcome back to Garden Ninja. Today's video guide is going to show you how to make a modern cottage garden border. So come on, let's get cracking. If you've not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the red button to subscribe today. Also click the bell for notifications. We'll have access to hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks from me, the Garden Ninja. And best of all, it's free. Now, a number of you online have been asking me to show you how to create a cottage garden. Now, cottage gardens sound simple, they sound romantic. If you imagine all those borders full of beautiful flowers of all different colours, grasses, movement, texture, but they're actually quite difficult to create and they're high maintenance. However, today at Garden Ninja HQ, I'm going to be creating a modern version of a cottage garden border to show you how you can achieve one and create that super rich planting palette without too much drama. Now, the cottage garden border is going to be situated right next to the house. So when I come in from a hard day's work, I can smell all these beautiful cottage plants, see all these vibrant colours and all the texture as I walk down. At the moment, there's not much there other than a low wall, so it's prime real estate to get some plants in and to jazz up this part of the garden. I've also got these gorgeous oleaster standards. Now, they're a few years old and they're in containers, so they really need potting on, but I thought rather than getting bigger pots, I'm going to commit them to the ground and incorporate them into this cottage garden design. So come on, let's get measuring. If you've followed my other guides, you know that scale and proportion is vital to any garden design or border creation. And here next to the house, we've got a few clues as to how deep the border should be. Behind me is a return on the wall that sticks out 1 metre. And we know, if you follow my other guides, that we never want a skinny border. So I'm going to marry up the border to that 1 metre rule. So all the way along this wall, I'm going to be planning out 1 metre, which is a really nice depth, to get a mix of herbaceous perennials, the standard trees and some ground covering to create a really dense mix of beautiful plants. Now, I find the easiest way to map out a design onto a garden is to use garden canes. And I'm going to position them 1 metre away from the wall and use a bit of string to make sure that I've got a level. And it's a really good way to check out your proportions before you commit plants to the ground. And I do it all the time. So if in doubt, once you've drawn your design up, map it out with canes, and it's far easier to spot your mistakes before you've got all your beautiful plants in the ground. So I've just finished marking out the border using the canes and the twine to make sure that it's symmetrical. And now for the hard work. I need to lift this turf. Now, you want to dig down to about 1 inch, 1.5 inches to remove the turf if you're creating a border in a lawn. And it's well worth taking your time, because if you skim the turf and leave the roots in, you're going to get grass growing in your borders. Now, you can recycle the turfs by piling them upside down at the back of a border next to a compost bin, somewhere like that. After 6 months, the turf will break down and you'll be left with gorgeous soil that you can then use to top dress your borders. So there shouldn't be any waste with any project of this kind. So the borders have been edged, I've improved the soil, and I've just popped in these 6 oleaster standards. And when I say popped, it took me the best part of a full day. They're all in perfect, neat lines and orders, but it's time for the exciting part, which is bringing in all those cottage garden plants. So follow me and I'll give you a quick peek at some of them that are going in. So down here at the back of the house, I've been babysitting my cottage garden plants. We've got a whole mix here of different typical cottage garden flowers, such as roses, we've got lavenders, grasses, geraniums, all sorts of beauties. I'm going to take them around the front and start arranging them, and I'll give you a bit of a walkthrough as to why I've chosen each of these specimens. Now, it wouldn't be a cottage garden border without some gorgeous roses, and I've gone a bit off piece with these. I've chosen really dark purples, puces, dark pinks, and I've chosen these Persian roses, which are originally from Iran. Now, they've been bred to be hybrids, so they're floribunda, there's loads of different buds on them, and they're going to form these sort of bush, almost like shrub roses. Now, they're going to get quite big. They'll get to about 1 metre wide, given 3 to 5 years. So again, I need to space them out carefully. But these gorgeous dark blooms are going to be a real talking point. And rather than reds, yellows or whites, I'm just going for that really moody vibe to get people chatting and asking questions about these roses. I've got some pretty special plants that are going in this cottage garden border, and this is one of them, and it's a peony. Now, this is Peony lactiflora, which is also known as the Chinese peony. Now, there are loads of different types, but these are kind of the more traditional. They grow like a big mass of herbaceous, beautiful flowers. Now, they're relatively easy to grow, but I myself have never planted them here at Garden Ninja HQ, so it's a bit of an experiment. But the top tips for planting peonies is to make sure that you don't bury the crown, which is the top of the plant. You don't want to bury them too deep. Although the pots they arrive in are deep, you want to make sure that top layer is just above soil level. Now, they will pretty much grow in any conditions, clay, sand, silty soil, but the big key is not to let them get waterlogged in winter. If your soil floods and get waterlogged, you don't want to be planting peonies. You might need to plant them in a raised bed or a container. But in this cottage garden border here, we've got 5 beauties of different peony species, and these are big boys, so they're going to get about 1 metre wide by 1 metre to 1.5 metres tall. And I need to bear that in mind when I plant them, because if I ram them together like they are now, they're going to soon outcompete each other and look like a tangled mess. And that's another top tip, is to always make sure that you space plants based on the ultimate height and spread. Come on, Baz, let's get planting. Amongst the trees, roses and peonies, I've also got some beautiful herbaceous perennials, such as Calamagrostis, Pennisetum and Melinia grasses. Following on from that, I've got ground cover, such as traditional hardy geraniums and geums that are going to give that pop of colour throughout the summer. I've also got height from Verbena bonariensis, pink hyssop and echinops, which are all fitting for that cottage garden scheme. So I've just finished placing all the plants in their rough positions, and it's worthwhile placing all your plants out, standing back, having a good look before you carry on, because you need to make sure that A, they're in the right place and you like them where they are, and B, they've got enough room, the conditions are right for those plants. So I know that all these plants are going to do fine in this free draining rich bed, but I do need to make sure they've all got enough space for when they reach the ultimate height. And the main problem with beginner gardeners is that you tend to squash things in because they all look so small at the moment. But it's always worthwhile considering how big are they going to get and then plan for that, rather than having to take them all out in a few years' time. A question I get asked a lot with both gardening and garden design is how to lay plants out. And it's really subjective, but I do have a few tips that make it a bit easier. A lot of the time you'll find that people will just line plants up in rows, and it always looks really formulaic, a bit formal, and it can look quite sort of uncomfortable. I prefer to use a matrix planting method. And if you want to know more about that, please check out the video, How to Plant a Flower Bed. But basically it uses the figure 5 on a dice to space things out so they're kind of offset, so that as things mesh together, they look much more natural. But another tip is to find the middle of the border. And then at the beginning, you've got your border or ground cover plants, and then as you move up towards the middle, you get higher before going back down on the other side. So there we have it, the finished modern cottage garden border. The plants may look small now, but because I've planted them knowing the ultimate height, they're really going to fill out over the summer. And next year we're going to get a fantastic show of beautiful colours and scents. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can see the progress of this modern cottage border, and I'd love to hear from you below. Are you a fan of modern cottage borders, or do you prefer more wild and loose arrangements of planting schemes? Do let me know. Have you got gardening questions that you need answers for? Well, why not head over to the Garden Ninja forum on my blog, where you can ask me anything about gardens, plants and garden design. There's a whole army of other garden ninjas there that can help provide answers to your questions. It's a really great way to meet the other ninjas, so head over there now. So there we are, how to create a modern cottage garden. Now this garden is anything but low maintenance, so if you're going to plant something like this, you will need to make sure you've got the time to look after it, but it will reward you with amazing comments from neighbours and friends as they walk past and are in awe of the beauty of it. If you've liked this video, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the notification and subscribe button below. There are hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks to help you make your garden awesome here on the Garden Ninja YouTube channel, so make sure you tell your friends. I'm off to enjoy my cottage garden. Happy gardening.